What is going on, Busy Bariatrics? I'm Rob, your favorite VSG man turned bariatric coach, and today's episode is for every single one of you out there who thinks you have to be loud to be legit. Let me introduce to you Susan. She is one of the quietest clients that I have ever coached, and also one of the most powerful. She joined Busy Bariatrics last year, was not like a big splash person, didn't overcomplicate anything, and didn't post a lot to the point that I was almost like, is everything good? Is everything okay? And Susan, in true fashion, would say, okay. And the coolest part about that was she really has transformed herself over that year, but also when she does speak in our community, everybody listens to Susan. And the reason why is she shows insight, she shows growth, and she shows everyone how to do the work. And that is the reason why I'm so honored that she came on here today. And I'm thinking back of all the things I've had great opportunities with Susan. I got to meet her in person at JBY. And I was kind of nervous because I never really know sometimes talking to Susan of how this is going to go down because she has this quiet reservedness to her that is really awesome. And then next thing you know, I see her squatting like a champ. She did a one-handed on the JBY floor. And I was just so impressed with how awesome she is. But that's kind of why I wanted to have her on, is because so many times I think we have to post, we have to share, we have to do anything. But the real thing that drives the rewards or gets you the results is just doing the work. And Susan does that. So Susan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am very humbled to be here.
And it's just such an honor to have you. If you could tell everyone kind of a little bit about yourself, why you had bariatric surgery, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So, I have always, up until the point I decided to make a change and have surgery, I've always been the fat kid. I've always been the fat person. I have always. That was just the way it was. Um, and I'm also the person who's been on Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, keto, the cabbage soup diet. You name it. If it appeared it might have worked, I probably tried it. And sometimes things worked really well until I stopped doing them, right? And then it just all reverted. So back in 1988, I saw an advertisement for a research study called the Diabetes Prevention Program. And so they were looking for individuals who were pre-diabetic because they were going to put you into one of the three groups to see if they could intervene in the onset of diabetes in pre-diabetic people. So I'm like, yeah, what the hey? I fit all the criteria. I'm overweight. I'm this and that. I had no clue if I was pre-diabetic or not at that point. So I went in and went through all the protocols. Yeah, you qualify. And I got randomized into the group that was diet and exercise. And I don't think I've ever been more excited in all my life than to know that somebody was actually going to give me money and encouragement and insight in how to lose weight and how to exercise, right?
Kind of crazy because the entire industry is based on the exact opposite, where we
Right.
pay people to do
Yeah.
this.
So, it was the first year was with a coach with the dietitian and a program at the physical therapy university where the study was occurring. And so those exercise classes specifically designed for obese people. So they were very much aware of how obese bodies can and cannot move. And we're focused on trying to help us all be better. And over the course of the first 6 months, I dropped 70 pounds and I was thrilled, right? Because now I'm down to what I perceive to be the lowest weight I've been in my adult life. And I'm
That's
totally ecstatic, right?
as you should be, yeah.
Right? So then year two rolls around and the protocol changes because now it's not a every week visit with a dietitian and these classes so much anymore. It's once a month with a dietitian and maybe more exercise on your own. And then life happened. My then boyfriend, soon to be fiance, now my husband, was in a major car accident and had a total, what they call an acetabular hip fracture, where
Goodness.
the hip bone punches through the back of the hip socket, right?
Ooh.
So, yeah, so he's not walking. He's not doing anything. It was a 12-hour surgery to repair this injury. So I became a caretaker. and put everything I was doing on the back burner, right? And so we would try to go walk at the mall and push him in the wheelchair. And just over time, old habits, old behaviors, old stuff came back. And that 70-pound weight loss became a 90-pound weight gain, became a 20-pound weight loss, became another 40-pound weight gain. So you can see the bump, 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 bump. If you look
Absolutely.
at my chart, and I have all the history. I mean, that was one thing about being in a research study like this. I have the 20 plus years of history of every measurement, every weight, everything. I have all that. And I look at it now I look at it on a regular basis because I want to know and remember that.
Gang, just a quick heads up. This is the first time I'm ever hearing this full part from Susan. Like, this is kind of why I have to put her on and interview her. Is Susan's just giving tips of the iceberg. Tell us what happened. You have 20 years of diet
So I
culture.
have 20 years of diet culture, right? Just eat fewer carbs, just move more. And they've set reasonable goals for exercise, 120 minutes a week, right? Of walking. Simple, right? There was no emphasis on weight training because that was not a thing. It was just
No,
pretty much
if
cardio
anything,
kind of thing.
and it was thought that back then you would get bulky if you weight trained.
Yeah. So it just got harder and harder. And after about 4 years, I was no longer pre-diabetic, I was diabetic, right? So they caught that early because of the annual visits we would go through. So they caught it fairly soon, and I was able to start taking medication. So this goes on for 15 plus years, to the point where at my highest weight and my worst control of my diabetes, I was using 300 units of insulin a day, and my A1C was still above 10. And if you're diabetic, you know that that's crap because you're killing yourself pretty quickly at that rate.
My goodness. Yeah.
So, at about this time, my husband, who had already had one hip replacement surgery, is now needing a hip replacement on the hip that was injured. But my husband weighs over 400 pounds at this point in time, right?
That's, yeah. I
Yeah.
always forget that your husband had bariatric surgery
Yes.
because I've
So
only met him in maintenance.
the orthopedic surgeon says, sorry, dude, I can't do it for you this time. The insurance just will not cover you, and I won't take the risk.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So you need to figure out how to lose 200 plus pounds before I'll do the surgery. And when I heard that, my heart dropped to my feet.
Because it's not like if you need hip replacement surgery, it's not like all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I'll join a gym and start working
Yeah,
out.
because he was bone on bone and not able to walk.
Yeah.
So how do you exercise to lose weight? So he had been taking Ozempic and he had lost some weight, but the orthopedic surgeon's like, you need to go investigate weight loss surgery. So we happened to go to church with a surgeon who specializes in one of his areas of specialty is bariatric surgery.
Oh my goodness.
So we went and met up with Dr. Ricks and my insurance through my company covered the surgery. So I was like, woohoo, we're good. And we got the process started. So about 8, 9 months later, he went back to the orthopedic surgeon and said, dude, how much do I absolutely have to lose before you can do my surgery? I'm at 220. Or no, I'm at 280. Can we do the surgery?
We'll sneak you in. We'll let you slide a little here. Because at this point, he's lost 120 pounds.
So the surgeon's like, yeah, I think we can get this approved. So he went in August of 2024, had his hip replacement. He's the kind of guy who recovered.
No, it's actually, it proves everything that we're doing. I love it. And I think too, when you look at that, like your husband was on a GLP-1, and even with the hip replacement, and yes, it did help create a caloric deficit. But I think ultimately we've all learned that a caloric deficit is what needs to occur to lose weight. It's the law of thermodynamics, whether it's bariatric surgery of restricting the amount you can eat at a time, a GLP-1 to help lower the food noise or the inhibitions around it. You still have to do and I think you and your husband really show that. So sorry, I didn't want to, hey, I'm here talking to someone who knocked out 6 figures of credit card debt. So if anyone gets it, I will do things for cash. Yeah, sounds great. Wait, January of 2024? That's phenomenal. 100%. I think it is for anyone. And I think that was always the most powerful thing because you started as a remote client of mine where, and I think that's sometimes a challenge for people when they're like, well, what does online coaching look like? And Susan, we never really did one-to-one because I had sold out that summer relatively quickly. But I was very nervous because so much of our powerful work comes in one-to-one conversations. But Susan was someone who would come in every day and just do the work. And I would check, like, it'd be like, okay, scales move in the right direction. I won't mention numbers or anything, but like, it would be like, okay, well, is she all right? She's not really messaging too much. She'd do it, but she would always complete her check-in. The workouts always got completed. Steps were always tracked. And then I would be like, you should share something with the group. And we would get these beautifully well-written, reflective pieces of her journey. And it became like one of my joys of our community was you kind of saw that like there's people who post multiple times a day. There's some people who post daily, weekly, monthly. And then there's Susan who just kind of does all the work and then just brings it back. And it was always so impressive. Mm-hmm. You would me both. Exactly. And I love that also is like cardio does not have to mean running, and you showed. Mm-hmm. I still remember when this transition happened. So it's kind of fun hearing your end in the narrative of this. Or dying. Can we pause there? Because like that's something I wish more people understood is sometimes you just have to learn that like this is tough, but like I'm not going to embarrass myself by backing out. I'm going to show up for me. And I am always so proud when you show. For those who don't know, what is the Darwin Award? And then now you kind of have to yes. And that's why in so many of our breakdown gymtimidation programs, we have the Smith machine as our starting option so that people learn to like kind of click it in or work with the spotter. Oh my goodness. If you're listening to this, this is exactly why we coach small incremental change over time. And Susan always showed this. Like it was like she would be the first to kind of share like, look guys, I am not an Olympic runner or a Olympic swimmer, but I'm starting at this step here and I'm just going to get a little bit better every day. And that's always been the most exciting part about coaching. Yeah, flip turn. Yeah. Susan's going to come back on next year's season, guys, and be like, so I can only do 52 flip turns before I get tired because you weren't always like that, right? So how did you start to learn that process? Because I think that's where like you mentioned a lot of like I wasn't a gym goer and then I became a gym goer. I wasn't a swimmer and then I became a swimmer. And you're someone who like used to be like weather used to be a factor, now weather is not a factor. Like how did you continue to build and tweak that? And while Susan is doing that, I'm going to give a little bit of the psychology that's going on behind this is what we call cognitive dissonance. Sometimes we just need to identify the voices in our head. And this is more common than most people think. Like, and this does not mean multiple personality disorders, but we all have negative thoughts and doubts. We all have negative or self-sabotaging behavior. And the sooner you can name it or identify it and then disassociate with it. So say like, no, I am not that person and go. But Susan has done an amazing job of doing the head work while in Busy Bariatrics and with working with some amazing professionals. So Susan now has her notebook of what she's named every voice has been on her ride. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the yabba dabba do. Also, gang, like I'm gonna give these little dissections of delayed gratification and just something as simple as like if then statements, like if I am hearing this voice, then I will give this reward at the end. Like you've done some really great work on all this. Big holiday treat. But I think that's really powerful. And for listeners, if you can kind of see how that worked in, like procrastination had its name, self-doubt had a name, the person who wants high carbs has a name. Every one of these people is a voice that we hear every day in our bariatric journey. Yeah. Now, here's the real question. Will you listen to this podcast, like this actual episode? The reason I never listen. Yeah, the reason I never listen to these episodes is I'm the same person. I've never listened to an episode I've been on. What? You know what I mean? But do you think, but like to go into everything, do you think that's a sign? Like, is that like, is that a voice we hear? The voice that we project onto the podcast, is that another voice in like your foot car at some point? Maybe because that's always my most confident voice. Do I struggle believing like maybe that's confident Carl for me? I struggle hearing confident Carl's voice in my head. Can you also, just for everyone else, because gang, this is like my biggest problem with Susan, and it's a great problem because she is an amazing client, but she will just commonly mention these things like she did in her story of like, oh, I was in a 20-year study of diet culture, and it turns out this program was one of the best things to help me through. Or like, oh, I'm working with someone on my mindset so that I can crush everything moving forward. Like, Susan is so amazing, and I am so glad this is all being put on the table. So keep going. For those of you on YouTube, Susan is smiling, and I will say Susan always has like a very stoic face of, but like she is beaming right now. And I am like so happy because I have felt this way about Susan the whole time I've coached her, and like hearing you talk confidently and do that. But for everyone who doesn't know, tell me like what the video was and how it looked. Again, doing one arm planks. That's awesome. Also, gang, like I did not know, like I need everyone to understand. I did not know Susan shot a commercial when I booked her on this episode. She did, but no, I'm dead serious. I want to be clear. Like, this is really hard because I'm hearing so much of this first thing. I'm like, oh, she did a professional photo shoot. And I talk about shooting a commercial and a photo shoot. And Susan has never once mentioned, like, oh, by the way, I'm doing the thing you're doing. I'm literally getting like most of this after the recording. It takes it almost off the table. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I will also argue, like, if you cannot change your mindset, you cannot really be successful in busy bariatrics. Like, you kind of need a growth mindset. And from coaching hundreds of patient clients at this point, I will say the ones who are willing to try and do it without worrying or doing anything tend to get the better results. And gang, just to give you an idea, Susan pays for my membership. So I say that in the most honored way possible because Susan could 100% do everything for free that we have. Like, if you just read the email list, if you just did the YouTube or the podcast series, and if you just watched a bit of my content, and I'd say that in order of everything, you could get amazing results. But if you're at that point like Susan was, where it's like, well, how do I get to that next level? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think people understand how lonely it is to be successful after bariatric surgery. And just sometimes being in a group of people all working towards getting better gets you to go better. Because I know even with like, I have a coach. And part of the reason is because when I get on their call, the norm is everyone's on the treadmill, or the norm is everyone provides what they're doing on Mondays for the week. And to be around people who think like that, but also get that it's hard and don't let you sit in the fact that it's hard, but say, yo, you got to keep moving, do the work. I will argue we always redirect. And that's where like people kind of can be ruffled by me sometimes, but our counselors, which Susan is and does an amazing job, is you can absolutely have the gripe, but there better be at the second half of it. And here's how I manage or how I'm getting over it. And that's the part that I think separates us is we totally get that you have issues and we never negate issues, but we do not allow you to sit in it. And that has been the first rule. That I think is the most beautiful thing ever is it's not, and that's the beauty of our community is I'd like to think I'm important, but I always say the reason we have counselors who walk the walk every day or show the work, the reason we have such an active community is because if one person starts to say, this is not good, everyone's job is to address the behavior and give actionable solutions. No, Angie, Erica, Ashley. But see, I think that's where people don't understand. There's the reason why I try to go to every in person event is because you need to understand there's a bunch of us who think this way, who walk this way, who want this way. And when we connect, it is just some of the most powerful stuff that I could have. It's the best part of this whole episode is I'm so proud of Susan because it's like every piece of advice that I know what she's gotten from Laura Grabeau, who is a dear friend. I can hear her voice in her statements. I can hear things we coach. And this is why she's a counselor for us, is because Susan really does show the importance of here's how we walk it, but more importantly, here's how we talk it. And it doesn't have to be every day, but it does have to be a consistent voice. Real quick though, Susan, we are at the 50-minute mark, so I do want to make sure we get to the stuff I'm going to ask, and it'll be a weird question, but have you listened to an episode of mine yet? Perfect. Are you ready to go to the lightning round? Awesome. So we're going to go through the busy method together. What is the best habit you have built after bariatric or since working with us? Beautiful. Best lesson you have learned from being in busy bariatrics on nutrition. Understand nutrition. Yes. Beautiful. What is your favorite form of staying active after Busy Bariatrics? It's so awesome watching that pivot and adjust. And it's been so cool because you loved walking. Like this wasn't a hatred thing. It was more of a I need to adjust. And we adjusted and you've now, like you're the submariner of our group. Showing up for yourself. How have you changed how you show up for yourself since joining this area? Exactly. No, and I think it's the most powerful part of it is by showing up and doing that and doing everything. It's just beautiful. All right, Susan, I have to tell you, like, I feel like we have to talk more, or let me change it this way. This is a great episode that shows why I need to listen more. And I'm just always so inspired of you. I'm so proud of how you show up for yourself every day and the way you show others as a counselor. And this episode was so easy to record because I'm beaming on the other side of this. So, Busy Bariatrics. If this episode hit, that means it's time to stop collecting awareness and start applying action. Quiet does not mean weak, slow does not mean stuck, and consistency, that's where the real power lives. You don't have to be loud to be legendary. You just have to kind of show up like Susan, and then you end up getting asked to do commercials and get paid to lose weight. Susan, thank you so much for coming on and keep getting busy.